Hello, I'm Venus Green. Welcome back to my channel. I just want to do a short video today as I've been working on the February astrology, and while this isn't directly tied to February, obviously when you are studying astrology, you look forward to what's coming and try to, sort of tie all the pieces together, if you will. So I had some thoughts today just based on looking at not only the transits that are coming up, but also with just a few different client conversations that I've had in the last couple of weeks. So I just felt compelled to do this, and I'll probably add it to the February video. So let's see how this goes. But what I really want to talk about is we have this sort of like monumental thing happening. This it's going to be a wonderful transition when we have Neptune and Saturn both move into Aries. So currently they're both in Pisces. They're moving into Aries, and Neptune moves in April. So by April 1st, we're going to say Neptune's going to be at 0 degrees of Aries. And by June 1st, Saturn will also be in Aries. And so while they don't come together in exact conjunction this year, they are going to be very close. So it is considered a conjunction. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what it's been like having Pisces, those planets in Pisces, and sort of the meaning of that, and really what does the energy feel like transitioning into Aries. And because I fit into the category of Neptune moved into Pisces in 2012, and I fit into the category of taking a very deep dive into my spirituality from that point. My father passed away in 2013. In the final years of his life, although he really I'm not gonna say that I know what he believed necessarily, but in the final years of his life, he did join the Masonic Lodge, and that was very meaningful to him. I know that for a fact, although he didn't necessarily speak in detail about what that meant to his life. When you have a very close personal relationship, which I did with my father, that when somebody changes, when they are just different all the way around, but in a good way, right? More solid, more grounded. I didn't take that big of an interest in it when he was alive, and I regret that. I regret not asking him more questions about, how that evolved in his life, how that unfolded in his life, and the true sense of meaning and purpose that I really believe that gave him. He wasn't a man for all of the years before. So let's say in the last 7 years of his life is when he really got into that and made that a practice in his life, a daily sort of weekly, whatever, a standard practice, something that he could fall on. It was knowledge that I knew that he'd gained, that he put into practical guidance and use into his life. And that's what I think that I've learned, that I'm going off track here. What I wanted to say is that before that time in his life, he was never really tied to any certain religion. He was never tied to attending a church. He didn't do things religiously like that. And I don't mean that in just the sense of religion. Just he was a very Saturnian type force in my life, and those are the kinds of things that he bestowed upon me: how to be responsible, how to take ownership of my life and be the guiding force for myself, but never in a way of speaking that through a God or source, which is what I would call it. Always that was just through his daily actions of believing that we're here on this earth to to take responsibility for ourselves. One of his key phrases in my youth was, there are no free lunches. And I say that to this day, right? There are no free lunches. Anything that you even do get for free, it comes with an understanding that it's not truly free, right? You're giving up some of your freedom to have that in some way, shape, or form. This is what I believe. So, to tie back to that, in 2012, Neptune moved into Pisces, and I want to talk a little bit about what that journey has been for us as a collective. And as I said, my father passed away in 2013, and it was near the end of the year in December, and so beginning 2014, I really started to take a huge interest in learning about ancient religions, you know, a lot of study about Egypt, and just trying to understand, you know, what the pyramids were for, what they were used for, what are the practices there, what's the meaning behind them, as well as others. But I took a huge interest just through my own sort of Akashic journey and trying to understand myself, took a huge interest in Egypt. And so but overall, trying to understand what do all of the religions have in common, and what do they all have that is maybe different, right? And believe it or not, there are more similarities to those things in practical sense than there are differences. And so I think, number one, that's what I found amazing. But I found a true call to understand that I can have all of this knowledge because I've been on a journey for my whole life of never, you know, really kind of being adamant that I will not tie myself to a religion. I church shopped a lot in my youth. My mother actually sent me to church quite often as a child, and I couldn't connect with that. I couldn't get myself. It was just I just couldn't connect with it, and that's the best way that I can explain it. However, I did take my own path. I did take, you know, myself on a journey to really understand how is it that one connects with what everyone calls God, right? Again, I'm going to refer to God as source because that is what I believe. But through all of that knowledge that I gained, I think the most important thing that I learned is that if you don't put that knowledge to practical use in your daily life, then it's as good as not having it at all, right? Like, knowing something is not the same as knowing something, And as I do this motion, I think that anybody who's been on a spiritual journey will understand that that's truly what it's about. Learning how to quiet your mind, how to be in control of your emotions, not in a way that you repress them and pretend like they're not there, but in a way that you don't let your mind automatically run wild with the thoughts of being overwhelmed with your emotions and all of the different facets that can take you through, right? Truly understanding that everything originates from the heart center. And when you can have that intelligence, that knowing that everything starts from here, that this is the center of you, your heart, your sun, your core is the one that's in control. And when that is what we lead with, when your heart has control over your mind, it leads, not the brain leads the heart. It's like a dramatic awakening. It's the best word I can say. I know that's so cliche, and I don't even care, because it is the most empowering thing. It is the most empowering thing. And so, one, I encourage you, as this year 2025 unfolds, to, if you're interested at all, if you've had any bit of interest, spend some time meditating every day. And I know that people go on about how meditation sometimes can be hard. It's hard to quiet your mind because your mind is so used to being in control, and that is what you have to change. You have to work through that difficulty of sitting down and being in silence, right? Focusing on letting the information come to you because you're radiating from here, and the messages, the downloads will come in, right? It's stopping your brain and saying, I'm in control for these 3 minutes, for these 10 minutes, 11 minutes. If you could do it for 11 minutes, that's awesome. It doesn't matter It's the practice and the doing it every day, and you will get better at it. Okay. So all of that to say, I really wanted to share some things about Neptune being in Pisces, the energy shifting into Aries, and kind of what that means for us as a collective. So let me just start by saying that we are going to have this really extraordinary event, right? Where both Neptune and Saturn are both transitioning into this fiery independent sign of Aries. And Neptune's the planet of disillusion, of ideals, of dreams. And as it moves into Aries, which I said is by April 2025, we're going to feel that shift in energy, right? The shift from Pisces. Shortly after that, the planet of structure, of discipline, of responsibility is going to be following Neptune into Aries, and that happens by June 1st. So it's this sort of simultaneous shift into Aries, which is the sign of individuality, the sign of action, the sign of I am. It's going to mark this profound turning point, both collectively and personally for all of us. So let's talk about what that means. Now, Neptune has been in his home sign, right? His home sign is Pisces since 2012. Pisces is a mutable water sign. It's associated with spirituality, with empathy, dreams, and the collective unconscious. So during Neptune's transit through Pisces, we've been experiencing this heightened awareness of not only interconnectedness, but also an emphasis on dissolving boundaries. Both in positive and negative ways, or challenging ways, if you will. So some of the key themes that we've seen since 2012 is spiritual awakening, right? I just sort of went through my own. But many people have turned to spiritual practices, seeking some deeper meaning or connection with this world, or everything around, right? Above and below. We've also seen creative and emotional expansion, right? Artistic movements have really flourished, and there's been an increased focus on things like emotional vulnerability. We've also had a lot of escapism and confusion, right? Because that's the shadow side of Neptune in Pisces, that it brings this rise in escapism, things like addiction, it blurs realities, and it often leads to disillusionment. And so Neptune has dissolved the structures that really have no longer, that are no longer serving us. And it's paving the way for a new vision, right? Because as it leaves Pisces, we're going to be called to examine what illusions that we've let go of and what truths have now come in or emerged that are taking its place, right? Because Neptune generally is dissolving those Saturnian type things that we have built in our lives. So I'll just mention them quickly. Ego, the structures and the boundaries that you build around your relationships, around your career, around your home and family, around your values, right? That those are the types of things that Neptune is going to challenge and work toward dissolving. Because if you can't see past those blocks, those boundaries that you've built up, then there is no opportunity for a new vision. Now, when Neptune moves into Aries and we feel this sort of shift in the collective, right? It's going to be the assertion of self, because Aries is, as I stated, the I am, right? Aries is a cardinal sign. It's bold, it's pioneering, and it's focused on personal identity. So when Saturn joins Neptune in Aries, this is going to intensify that focus on building a reality that's grounded in self-sovereignty. So I came up with, as I was, like I said, working through the transits of what's happening in February and March and unfolding through the years. So I wanted to share these 4 things with you. First is that change begins within you. That is not just a phrase on a plaque, something that you post on your wall. It is a truth, and it is a knowing when you practice it, when you step into that energy, because Aries teaches us that that we have to take ownership of our lives, right? And as Neptune dissolves illusions around things like external validation, then we're going to be faced with the realization that true change starts within us, right? And so this is going to be a call to stop seeking saviors outside of ourselves and to reclaim our power as creators of this reality, creators of our own reality. And of course, that then leads me to number 2, which is we are the creators of our own reality. And that's something that I so have learned on my journey. Again, it's the process of aligning your heart and your mind that will help you to truly, it's the practice of doing that will help you to truly believe in that. So the universe is going to be asking us to step into our role as conscious co-creators, right? This alignment with both of these planets moving into Aries is going to emphasize personal accountability, right? It's going to be time to assess where we've been blaming others or possibly external circumstances for the challenges that we face in our life. So we're going to be confronted with the truth that we are responsible for our perceptions and that we are also responsible for the lives that we build and the one that we've built. Every decision that you've made, every decision that you've, indecision that you've allowed somebody else to make, we are responsible for all of those things. That is the unfolding of our lives. And when we give our power away to another person, to another entity, to anything outside of ourselves to make those decisions, then we are essentially giving our power away, right? That's probably something that you've heard before. So it's the end of the blame game, and that is number 3, right? This is going to be a period where that will highlight the futility of blame. And if you are a person who clings to things like victimhood, or you resist taking responsibility for all of those things that I mentioned, then you are very likely to experience frustration in your life. You're going to experience stagnation. You may even possibly experience some physical manifestations of those unresolved emotions, right? That is a belief that I hold. Saturn in Aries is going to demand discipline. It's going to demand action of us. But Neptune is going to be there to soften that process by encouraging compassion. Compassion not just in the general sense, but compassion for ourselves, right? We are human beings, and this is a natural part of upgrading, of becoming aware, of increasing our consciousness, right? When you have compassion for yourself is when you can truly have compassion for other people, and not really until then, is my belief. And then, of course, the final and 4th thing that I wanted to share is that health is a mirror of our emotional disharmony. Again, these are my beliefs. If you don't believe the same, that's okay. I just want to share the knowledge with those that I think that could benefit or are maybe interested. And so it's my belief that resistance to inner transformation likely manifests physically in our lives, right? In our bodies. So Aries energy really demands action and movement. And when you suppress those things, that energy it has to go somewhere. So it's most likely going to turn inward, right? It's going to create tension in our lives. It's going to create tension within our bodies. And oftentimes that leads to illness. Again, if that's not something you believe, that's okay. You can pass me on. But acknowledging this mind-body connection is going to become essential as these planets move through Aries. And when we address our emotional blocks, then we really truly can prevent these issues from becoming physical and manifesting within our body and our mind. So one of the things, like I stated in the beginning, that I have really taken a liking to, that has helped to calm and center me, I often say, You have to stand in your center, right? You have to be the owner of that space, right? Because what's outside of the center, right? I'm calling this the center, but literally also the center of the circle. If I'm sitting in the circle within my ritual, because what's out here is, this is outlier. This is what's extreme, right? And those things are not generally rational, and they're not generally practical. When you can bring those back into the center and make sense of them, you have this calmness that allows you to, again, my belief is that the information for what you need in that moment, your answer, your need, your desire, your idea flourishing is going to come through that channel when you have quieted your mind and you can stand in your center. So meditation and silence, I think, are ways to anchor your center, and you can navigate these energies, I think, much better when we have a practice of daily meditation or just time spent in silence, right? Because that's invaluable. It's time for you to clear your mind and allow new things to come in. Aries energy can be quite impulsive and quite reactive. And so a grounding practice really helps to maintain clarity, but also helps to align ourselves, right? This helps ensure that the actions that we take come from a place of intention rather than reaction. And that is so often, I think, what I hear from clients is through their stories, right? They are generally reacting to the things that are happening around them or within them. And to gain power over that, to become less reactive, is to become more aligned and making decisions and taking action based on your true intention, right? What is the outcome that you choose for this situation or what have you? All right, so why meditation? Because the world is completely full of noise, right? And it's completely full of opinions. One of the things that I think I learned from not only listening to often Abraham Hicks, whom I love, Esther, but also Neville Goddard, right, is that silence, stillness allows you to hear your inner voice, right? When you take your thoughts and your ideas out to, even if it's your closest personal relationships, and I think sometimes those are the most difficult ones, they are the ones most unwilling to accept the change that's happened within you. And that's another video, but when you take those ideas out and you sort of are answer shopping, you're going to get so many different opinions. And if you try to absorb all of that back in order to make a decision rather than just align and listen to your inner voice, it's going to be really difficult, right? Because you're trying to please these things that are external to you rather than start with what your original intention is. Your intention has now been twisted and mangled into what everybody else thinks it should be. And while I don't want to say that, the people around you are not important, to truly find happiness and feel happiness, it has to start from here, right? It has to start with your intention. It has to start with what it is that makes you feel aligned, because that is how I believe we ultimately experience happiness, right? It's allowing ourselves space to reconnect with your true self and to dissolve the influences of external distractions, right? And the world is full of distractions. And it's a simple practice, right? You can start with as few minutes as possible. If one is all that you can stand, for 1 minute, just try to, I would suggest doing it in the morning. Start with that. Don't start with your phone. Don't start with, a shower. Don't start with anything else. It can be just still laying in bed, right? You're awake, but now just lie there and set what you want your day to look like, rather than just hopping out of bed and running to the shower and then brushing your teeth and then getting dressed for work and yada, yada, yada. Start with that. Start with, I'm just going to lay here for as long as I can, to align myself. How do I want to feel today? What do I want the day to look like? What do I want the day to be full of? Rather than what must I do because all of these things are going to be coming at me, right? That's the wrong time to be trying to make a decision. That's the reactionary energy that I was talking about. This is the different state of saying, I'm going to set the tone for the day. The day is going to go the way I choose it to go. We cannot control everything external to us, but we can always choose how we react to that, to those situations, and we can always choose how far we're going to let that penetrate us, right? Because again, all of those things that are external to you are not really your problem, right? They're not. We absorb them and we take them on because that's our job or we think that's our duty. But really, we are all our own sovereign beings and we all have to take responsibility for ourselves. That's the actions, decisions. Again, getting back to set the intention for your day. And that should be, I think, your place to start. If you are interested at all in meditation or what it can bring you, start with that. Stay in bed for 1, 2, 3 minutes longer before you wake up and you start moving on with the day. Set the intention for how you want to feel today and how much you're going to let external forces change your position, right? Stay in your center. Embracing our sovereignty. Definitely, where we have given away our power, where what areas of our life need some sort of bold action and leadership, and how can we align our actions with our inner truth? That's what we're working on when we are aligning our energy and we're not allowing it to work against us. So resistance, you need to be aware of where you have resistance to change, because as 2025 is going to unfold very quickly, especially from the summer on, right? It's probably going to start with eclipse season. We're going to get our first taste, but these planets are going to start moving into Aries, and then all the other outer planets are going to be shifting signs as well. And so this is going to be a much faster year. If you are one of those people who has very fixed energy in your natal chart, who is a very fixed individual in terms of, I don't want my life to change. I like what I built. I like what I have. I like the way things are. You are probably going to experience more frustration than the individuals who are at least making an attempt to be flexible this year. So be aware of where you have resistance. Resistance is going to show up as fear. It's going to show up as procrastination. It's going to show up as self-doubt. Earlier this year, I re-released a ritual that I love to do related to empowerment. And self-empowerment and confidence, and not in an egotistical way, but in a way that says, I am connected to source directly. I need nothing else in between. Knowledge, yes. Research, yes. Into how do I make sense of all of this? But there is nothing between you and source. There is nothing between you and God. You can get the answers that you need if you believe in that, right? All it takes is for you to allow that flow. You have to lean into the changes that come up. You have to lean into things with curiosity and with courage. And Aries really rewards those who are willing to take risks and to forge new paths, because that's what Aries loves to do. All right. So just closing thoughts, what I want to share is that this dual entry that we have of Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries is going to signal a very powerful collective awakening, right? It's going to be time to step into your authenticity. It's definitely going to be a time to take responsibility for your reality and to embrace the power of I am. I can't say that enough, because that is the sort of definition. It is the standing statement for Aries. I am. And while this energy is likely going to feel rather intense, it's also really empowering. If you can stay grounded through practices like meditation and approaching life with this spirit of sovereignty, then you really are going to be able to navigate these shifts that are coming up with grace and with purpose. And that sort of is the point, right? It's not just a call for individual transformation. It's a collective one. It's all of us, right? Pisces is the collective. It is all of us. And as each of us takes that responsibility for our own lives, then we contribute then to a more aligned, a more harmonious world overall, right? Everybody is at a different level of awareness. Everybody is at a different level of consciousness. And and as I make this video and I'm trying to share and tell, to tell another person about these kinds of things, it can't fall on ears that can't hear, right? I think for those who are approaching awareness, spiritual awakening, self-sovereignty, that's something you can understand, right? The Lord knows that Jesus understood that you cannot tell another how to get there. It is a path that they must walk on their own. It is a journey that they must be willing to take, that they must be in ownership of, right? Because it's unfortunate, but we do just have to learn our own lessons. Sometimes people don't like that word. I do like that word. I think that lessons are what we are. It's not our purpose is to be here to learn lessons, but is the thing that helps us find knowing, right? Find truth. Not the truth that somebody else gives us, but the truth that we know through experience. And I think that's what we're going to be delving into much deeper as we move into 2025. So I want to just leave you with this one thought because as I stated, I love to do my own personal rituals. That is my way to align myself, to connect with source, and to really get the information not only that I need for my for sharing with my clients and through these videos, but also how I move forward in my own life. So I would leave you with this message to meditate on. How can I step into my power, right? And create the change that I wish to see. Whatever you see as an issue in the world, how can you step into your power and how can you be that change? Because truly, I do want to say that that's the way that I sort of was drawn into this, right? Into the occult, into all of the things that I've studied and practiced, because I saw my father. I have my son in the first house. He has been a steady staple in my life. He has been, even after he passed on and I had to find myself reconnecting with him spiritually, seeing him be the change, right? It was a drastic change in him, not in the way of, again, being super, spiritual or spreading the word, but just seeing him react and act, move through life with a very different sense of steadiness and calmness is likely the only reason that I was so called to dive so deeply into this myself. And again, I have found great meaning, great centeredness, and most of all, my purpose in life, which I believe is this. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. And I hope that this information has been helpful. I thank you for listening, and have a great February.